Welcome to the Mischief. I'm Valen, and this is Mahou Tsukai. This mod is magical. It adds in some really strong stuff, but it's a little bit different from your usual magic mod, adding in all sorts of really pretty effects, but it's a little bit, unorthodox in how it goes about things. So let's get into this so you can understand the basics on how to get started. First things first, you're going to want to make a little instruction book. It's the Knowledge Compendium, made with a very simple recipe of mostly some red dye, paper, and a bit of leather. Opening this up, you are covered with a plethora of information that you can scroll through rather easily. And it will take some time for you to get through the huge amount of spells that you have to choose from. I'm not going to be showing you everything. I'm just going to show you some basic setups, how to get started, and a little bit on how you can level yourself up a little bit faster than you might otherwise do. Now, this is not a mod for the faint of heart, as it deals with blood, or at least the idea of using some kind of damage that you take to make these sigils on the ground. Now, it's not blood magic, though it can be interpreted as such. Either way, let's get started. We've got a hammer. We're going to need this in order to make some of the materials. It is just made with some simple string, cobblestone, and sticks. Later on, you're definitely going to want to replace this with a mortar and pestle. It serves the same purpose, but it requires a bunch of diamonds and sticks, as well as perhaps some bricks for the bowl. And both of them serve the same purpose, and that is making powdered materials. These are going to be your primary ingredients for these circles that you're seeing on the ground around here that you're probably going to be needing in order to make some scrolls or different magical effects and abilities. Now, why would I make the mortar and pestle when I can just make a really cheap hammer? The hammer will make one of these at a time. For instance, powdered ender is made from an ender pearl. You see, it will make one powdered ender. If you use the mortar and pestle, it will make two, thus doubling your results. And there's a lot to choose from here. You've got ender pearls, you've got eyes of ender, you've got iron, quartz, emerald, diamonds, and gold. And you don't have to have all of these ingredients per se. There are certain spells and or rituals that you can perform that can transmute one into another, which will allow you a lot more variety, and perhaps you don't have to spend a lot of time farming things like ender pearls. Now, next on the list, besides just gathering a bunch of regular mining materials and a few of your crushing tools, is you're going to need a dagger, specifically this dagger here. It's made with a bit of dye, some ingots, and a stick. It does not actually take durability damage when used, so you can use it quite regularly for attacking things, but it only does 1.5 attack damage, so it's just barely better than a bare hand. It's just a little tiny dagger, but it's also useful as a tool. If you combine it with some wool, you'll get spell cloth. You're going to need a whole bunch of this, so I recommend you try and stock up on this, because this is how you make scrolls. And scrolls are basically items or spells that allow you to kind of travel around and cast them at will or place them down on the ground and have an effect. Otherwise, you're probably going to have to rely on something like this. Mystic Code. Yes, it looks that cool from the outside, as well as from your perspective. It's just amazing. There are configs that will allow you to change all sorts of interesting things in this mod as well, and tons of different settings that you can mess with to make this a lot more friendly, though it does have some PvP in mind if you continue with this mod. Now, how would one make a Mystic Code? Well, you'd need some powdered gold and some spell cloth. We'll make one of these. And it's basically like a bracelet that can store things. If I sneak right-click with it, it will have 3 open slots. Each of these can hold up to a stack of different kinds of scrolls. By pressing the default Y key, you'll bring up this kind of like wheel that you can choose from. You can see I've got a Geas scroll over here, I've got Ascension scrolls here, and I've got an empty scroll slot here. I'm just going to keep the empty scroll slot so I can mess around with these fun, different effects. But you'll also notice if I pick a different slot down here, it will change to a different location, as well as on my hand. It is displayed in each of those depending upon which one you choose. There are plenty of upgrades in this mod. I won't be covering most of those today. Things like the Mystic Code for Sorcery that requires durability instead of scrolls. But we can get into those next time, because this is going to be a multiple part series. Alright, so how do I make different spells or effects in an area? There are plenty. When you start with, you'll only have 100 Mahou. And that's the numbers that are up here. I currently have over 1,500 because I've been messing around with this mod for a while. But if you want to regenerate your Mahou, you'll probably want to sleep, whether it be in a regular bed or if you have another mod installed that allows you to sleep during the day. Either one, if you are resting, will restore a considerable amount of your Mahou. Alternately, by default, just by waiting about 5 to 10 seconds, you'll regenerate one at a time. And that's just to start with. I currently am generating a considerable amount more passively, but we'll get into that as we proceed. One of the first items that I'm going to be teaching you is how to more or less level yourself up, increase your mana regeneration rate, and so on. The more you cast spells and use the different effects, the more your Mahou will go up. And it's very, helpful to have a lot more mana or, spell ability than it is when you start. So let's start with the guys. This will essentially prevent you from doing damage to a certain type of entity. Now you can use it on named entities as well, but I'm going to be teaching you a little bit on how you can generate yourself some regen passively. So if you have some kind of animal that you do not want to injure, or you have no intention of injuring in the future, let's say a chicken in this case, you'll want to cast this spell. Now if you look here, looking in your book, it does kind of like you could scroll through it and look for the item guys right here, and it tells you the different ingredients you'll need, plus a cloth is required. Now I will tell you how you can make the bloody inscription, as well as the potential for using a cloth. First, you're going to want to put down the cloth. You don't want to do the reverse. Putting the cloth down first is a lot better. Then you right-click with the dagger. Be prepared, it'll hurt a little. And then if you look in the top right, I've got a few seconds in order to press the default M key, and it will place a blood sigil within one block of you. If you try aiming over here, it'll still just put it in the next closest available block. If one is not available there, then it will try and put one, wherever it can. And if your timer runs out, well, you've injured yourself for no reason. But this is your little blood sigil, and you'll need to add ingredients to it. Looking at the guys here, we need gold, iron, and emerald powders. I've already shown you how to create those, so let's just move on. All right, having these powders, I place one after the other, and it will add these little triangles, and you only ever add 3 to any of these sigils. Once you're complete, you just right-click, and you get yourself a guy's scroll. Convenient. Then you can use it on the animal of choice. Just by holding it, you should see this little effect here. And whether you notice it or not, it'll use about 30 mana. There we go. I just right-clicked and it says Guys Added Chicken. Now I already have several Guys scrolls added into my Mystic Code, so let's go over to those here. And if I'm not aiming at the chicken and I'm just using it in the air, it will then tell me all the guys that I have, or Geasa. I am guessing at the pronunciations of these, so please forgive me if I do mispronounce several of the words or phrases in this mod. But anyway, if you look here, it says all the different items or types of creatures that I am currently immune to injuring. So I am in regular survival mode right now. If I get down here with this chicken, I can't hurt it. Not even with a dagger. Not even with a netherite sword, nothing. It's like peaceful mode. I can't hurt the creature. Now you can do things like lava bucket and kind of get rid of the chicken that way, because then you're indirectly injuring it. And it doesn't matter if this chicken survives or not. It is still part of your guy's network. And by claiming peace upon an entity type, and in this case, it would be all chickens are now immune to damage from me directly. You then gain a bit more Mahou regen. So the regen on your mana in the top left corner there will basically regenerate a little bit quicker. Looking at the list of creatures that I currently have here, I have a lot of regeneration. So I can cast some serious spells, and every 5 to 10 seconds I get a big chunk of mana back. Now just by casting that, you may or may not increase your level, and your maximum will go up to from 100 to 101, maybe even 102, something like that. It might take a few castings for that to happen. Don't worry, there are ways to increase your maximum as well. So first we just need to get you a regeneration rate, and then we can get you set up. So make as many of those as you can. Pick as many different animal types that you possibly can that you're okay with, or even enemies if you want. Just be aware that you can't directly harm them with your attacks. Next, I'm going to teach you about ordered displacement. This takes 3 powdered ender, and it's another one of those blood sigils. Almost everything is going to involve a blood sigil at this point, so just kind of figure that that's a given. You know, it says here, it does not require a cloth. You can put it on a cloth, transport it, and then click it down on the ground, as you can with many of these, not all of them. But in this case, it's just you don't need it to be there. As per normal, I click the button, I press M, I grab some powdered ender, I click 3 of those on there, and voila, we now have this. If I want these materials back, you don't get them back. You just left click by punching once and it will destroy the item. Same thing even if it's on a cloth, so be fully aware of that. But I already have 2 of these down here. And the reason I have 2 of these down here is because depending upon the order that you place them in, I placed this one first, then this one. And it will continue teleporting you from one to the other depending upon how much Mahou you have. So if I jump on one, you'll see I teleport back and forth from one to the other. And my Mahou is going down, though every now and then it will tick back up because I currently have a pretty good regen on my abilities there from all the guys that I have going on. Now you can have multiples of these and they will teleport in the order that they are made. So if you mess up somewhere in the middle there, you're probably going to have to go back to wherever you want and, redo a bunch of them. But it's not too bad. Now that is one way of just getting around. And I found that just having a couple of them next to each other is one really good way of just spending your mana. So in this case, I'm just walking forward. Let me actually go out into this mode here. You can see I'm walking forward and just constantly clicking and just burning through my Mahou. Now, you're not going to be able to do that to start with because it does take 40 mana per teleport in order for that to work. But that is just one way of spending it rather easily. You don't even need to be there. And it doesn't even have to be you. It can be an item that's teleporting around, and it will just constantly keep using those really quickly, assuming you have enough of your Mahou in order for that to happen. So how do you increase your maximum Mahou then? Just by casting spells and such, this being one of them, it will over time slowly increase your maximum. So just by AFKing or dropping something on there is one way of doing it, though a lot of the time AFKing is not the best way to go. So how do I have enough mana in order for this to keep on keeping up with this? Otherwise, it's going to take me quite some time. Well, that's where we come over here to the durability exchange. Durability exchange requires powdered diamond and 2 powdered emerald on top of a blood sigil. I've already done this a few times now, so I'm not going to do it again, but you can see that I have a couple of them here. If I open this up, you can see that they are on top of barrels. So with an item inventory underneath, you can actually fill it with items. What I recommend is stone shovels, at least to start. I mean, early on, it's going to be easy in order to come by some kind of cobblestone and sticks, and you can make a lot of them. By putting a bunch in here, they'll start using up the durability, 10 durability at a time. This is why I recommend stone shovels to start, because it's really cheap. You'll probably burn through a bunch of them as you progress, but you notice that my Mahou is going up. There it goes, jumping a considerable amount, though it's chunking through the durability. Now, on the other side, I currently have some netherite pickaxes in here. I mean, netherite shovels would have been smarter, but you get the idea. The more durability, the longer it'll last in there. And as long as your Mahou is being used, it'll keep on eating up the durability. You can see that it's still going. And that's one way of really chunking back a lot of the mana. Setting up a few of these and getting them filled up with different materials. Probably a bunch of barrels with stone shovels to start with, and then later on you could probably move to something else if you've got a whole bunch of other materials. Has to have something with the durability, but it should really get you going. Combine this with just standing in place or running across this thing to kind of burn through your Mahou. And you can really chunk up the levels and get your maximum, ability levels up quite well. Now that's the basics. To start with, you probably will just, have to constantly keep resting or something like that because the regeneration rate is so slow while you're first finding your first critters to kind of like guys with or something like that. But it definitely will help to have some kind of sleeping option, especially if you have something along the lines of the comforts mod so you can sleep during the day as well. But let's go over some of these different options for just some fun early game stuff that you can use that's quite useful. In this case, we're going to say Catalyst Exchange. This one is probably the most useful early on. It does use 50 mana, but every time that you're using these things, you're also potentially increasing your maximum, so don't feel bad about that. But you will need 3 powdered emeralds. Now, often you've seen me talking about all the different costs of these things, and they seem a bit extravagant, but this alone makes them a lot cheaper. So let's get started with a little bit of an injury, then putting it down on the ground. I'm going to put 3 powdered emeralds on there. And here's the thing. I'm going to take some powdered quartz, which I think is going to be, let's say you've got a whole bunch of powdered quartz because you went to the nether, you made a bunch, but you're still having problems getting like powdered ender or powdered eye of ender, or even diamonds or emeralds or things of that nature. Well, let's toss some of this powdered quartz on here, and it will convert it to something else. But it's at the cost of 50 mana every time that you toss these on here. Actually, I'm a little bit not close enough over here. And it will convert it into different powders, which is pretty darn useful because, well, 1, you can just level yourself up like that, but 2, you get all sorts of different ones. You can toss these back on there when you're done if they're not the ones that you wanted. Just remember, each time that you do that, it is going to be 50 mana. So if you have a whole bunch of things being processed, sucking up your mana, then that might make things a little bit more difficult. But it is an easy way of getting powdered diamonds without having to mine for them. All right, let's say that you're down very far in the underground and you need to get back up to the surface, but you're so far from home and it's going to take you forever to like find, you're lost in the caves or something like that. That's where Ascension comes in. If you put down some gold, couple ender, powdered ender, and you don't have to have cloth, you can kind of teleport yourself up. Think of it as like a escape rope from Pokemon or something like that. But with Ascension, it will take you to the highest block above you. So in this 1 block space. If I cast it out here, nothing's going to happen. But if I go back here and I cast it underneath this tree, I teleport up to the top. So if I have this already placed on the ground, instead of actually like taking it with me is in a scroll form, it will act as a teleporter as well to just get you up there. Now it does use a bunch of mana in order to do so, but if you're just looking to kind of escape from getting down way down in the underground, especially in 1.18 with there being a especially deep world gen, then this can really be a time saver for you. Another fun one, and potentially also kind of creepy, is Scrying. With a little bit of powdered eye, a couple powdered ender, you can kind of spy on something a little bit and for a short time. For example, let's put down this sheep here and I name it sheep. There we go. And I take another name tag with that same thing and put it in this same spot on a Scrying circle. And you can see a little bit of an area of the sheep, and it's a little bit slow. It doesn't update like immediately, but you can see it's walking around. You can see what it's up to, and yes, this works on players. This is where the creepy part comes in. But it lasts for a little bit and can be useful for other spells later on. It's just kind of interesting to see something like that. So you can always check on, some critters back home, or set up a named creature in your house, and then do a scry spell to see if somebody is in there with it or whatnot. But yeah, it's just really fun. Another fun one is strengthening. This requires a couple powdered diamonds and a powdered iron. When you use this, it will increase the strength and ability of your first slot item. So you can have it in a different hotbar spot, but I recommend just putting it in the far left of your hotbar. And you see I've got a netherite sword with sharpness 5. This is what I have. It has nothing to do with the spell as of yet, but it does 11 attack damage. Now if I use this has changed a bit. It now is unbreakable and strengthened. This isn't permanent, but it will last for some time, and it will just enhance it in general. Now, this doesn't just work on weapons. It actually does more damage than what it says here, but if you use it on tools, it will also make them much more durable as well. So if you just keep on using some of these on occasion, you can make your tools last indefinitely. And here's another one that I think is still pretty low level that could be of interest. It can actually help maintain you if you're nearby. You can actually stack it with the other things that I had listed here for ways to kind of improve, especially if it's near a spawner. And that's the Boundary of Drain Life. Now there are boundary spells, and each one of them will affect a radius nearby to wherever the source is. The cloth is optional in this place, so you just need to have the sigil on the ground. So let's put the sigil down to iron and an emerald. Then activate it with an empty hand, and when you have nearby creatures, specifically ones that will not be affected by your guise, it will do damage to them over time. So if I put a bunch here, they'll automatically be injured, but you'll notice my health is going up. Then, my hunger meter is refilled. After that, my mana is recharged as well. So it's just going to help you out, especially if you have a mob spawner nearby, a way of just keeping yourself topped up. And it's just really handy to have. Keep in mind, it will not injure the creatures that you have a guise with. In this case, I have sheep. So if I put a sheep down here, it is unaffected. Now, if you want to cast something that will require more mana than you have maxed out, you can make one of these, either Attuned Emeralds or Attuned Diamonds. These require an Attuner plus the appropriate gem. An Attuner is just a bunch of gold and lapis. These can store up to 10,000 or 5,000, depending upon which one you choose. And essentially, you're going to take the mana that you have just by holding right-click, sucking it into the gem, and it will store it. Then, if you need more mana than what you have available, it will take from both your mana pool and this attuned gem. Definitely a useful tool that can help you with a lot of stuff. And there you have it, the beginnings of Mahou Tsukai, and I hope you guys enjoyed this bit by bit. Tune in next time and I'll show you guys how you can customize and make your own effects on your armor like you're seeing here. Anyway, if you did enjoy, please be sure to give a like, comment, subscribe, and as always, come stop by on Twitch. Hit that notification bell. Till next time, I'll see ya.